the club. And, you know, a decision had to be made when the guidelines were being drawn up as to, you know, what would be the basis of the club structure. And the decision was taken, well, look, let's just use the GAA club constitution as the basis. If you have a single club model, the club executive committee, as established in the constitution, is the committee that has overall responsibility for running all of the affairs of the club over all the various codes. Now, for things to work properly, it's important that all codes are adequately represented on the club executive. In some clubs, that just happens, if you like, organically by having sufficient members at the AGM to be elected onto the club executive. In other clubs, and the club I'm involved in has this arrangement, there's a specific place on the club executive committee for somebody from Ladies Gaelic Football, somebody from Camogie, but also somebody from the underage committee in the club. And that guarantees a minimum representation. However, it's fair to say that other members of the club executive would be predominantly involved in Ladies Gaelic Football or Camogie rather than men's Gaelic Football or hurling. So it's not confined to the representative of the Camogie and Lgfa. In relation to property, the rules in the GAA club constitution refer back to the GAA official guide. So all property, whether it's land, buildings or finance, are vested in the trustees of the GAA. And it's important that that understanding is there from the start and that there's no confusion over it. But that's what's agreed in the guidelines, which have been agreed by all the organisations. And I think that's what works well. So if we move on to the next one. While the GAA club constitution forms the basis of the structure, it's important that the names of the Lgfa and Camogie side of things are properly recognised. Now, by that I mean in some clubs where the Ladies Gaelic Football and Camogie have developed separately, they may use a different name. For example, here in Dunshaughlin, where my office is, the Ladies Gaelic Football developed as Royal Gaels, as a separate club, separate organisation. They have recently come together to form a single club, but in what they decided here was to use the full name, Dunshaughlin and Royal Gaels, so that when the ladies team is playing, they can still play as Royal Gaels. Each of the clubs, the club should be registered with each of the three associations. And that's important that that's done from proper governance point of view within Lgfa and Camogie. And the Lgfa and Camogie will require officers to be appointed or to be nominated from the club for the purposes of their organisations. So that can be done again in differing ways. I think that the simplest way is probably to have a committee looking after Ladies Gaelic Football and a committee looking after Camogie, and that the secretary of that committee is the secretary for the purposes of, we'll say, Lgfa. So communications coming from the Lgfa County Board would go to the secretary of the Lgfa committee within the club, and similar with Camogie. And I think that probably works best for so long as we have three separate organisations. So if we move on again to the next one, it in fact repeats what I've said there. They operate as the de facto executive committee for their codes. Now, in terms of registration with the various associations, it's important that ladies football players and Camogie players register as members of the Lgfa and or the Camogie Association. It's also recommended that the overall chairperson, secretary and treasurer of the club would register as members of those associations. So that means that the chairperson of the club may well be a member of the GAA only. But in order for the one club model to work properly, it's recommended that he or she would also register as a member of Lgfa and or Camogie, depending on the situation locally. And similarly with the secretary and treasurer. In terms then of membership of the club, I think that what works best is that members of the club who are involved in ladies Gaelic football and Camogie would also register as members of the GAA. And the reason I say that is that it means then that they can have a vote at the AGM, and that there's no difficulty in electing, the officers of the club or the club executive committee at the AGM. They have a full vote there. So the recommendation would be that everybody becomes a member of the GAA, but that in addition, those involved in ladies Gaelic football or Camogie would become members of those associations. And then, I'm sorry, I know I'm repeating myself somewhat, but it's important that the club chairperson, secretary and treasurer would also become members of the other associations. Bank accounts, and this is important, it harks back to what I said earlier about the property of the club. Finance is obviously part of the personal property of the club, and that should be controlled at club executive level. It's best that the GAA club treasurer is the treasurer of the ladies Gaelic football side of things and the Camogie side. So that again is another reason why it's important that the treasurer is a member of the ladies associations, whether it's the ladies Gaelic football or Camogie association. It's not recommended, and I would strongly discourage anybody from retaining separate bank accounts for the different branches of the club. That leads to untold difficulties. It would be the exact same as if you were to have, a separate account for the, the men's senior football team or the underage section. Everything should run through the club treasurer, and overall control remains with the club executive committee. And again, that's a good reason why it's important that there's proper representation of ladies Gaelic football and or Camogie on the club executive committee. So look, I think that that's the main bones of the structure and governance situation. As I say, most of what I've said there is contained in the One Club guidelines, which were issued back in, when is it? I'm just looking at here. Sorry, June 2017. And, I think that provides a good overall structure for how a one club situation should operate. So Goramagov, Aaron, I don't know whether you want to do questions now or move on to the next section.
Yeah, thanks a million, Liam. So just if there's any questions from the group there on the structure and governance side, on the rules side, we're kind of for Liam. If you type it into the chat, or even you put up your hand and ask them out. Yeah, see, the secretary from St. Kevin's there might have a question, if you want to go ahead.
Sorry, I think there's somebody there in the background. I just can't hear.
Or if even if Ciara Bisbee, if you want to go ahead.
Hi, yeah, I just had one question there. We've just are at the start of we've just joined as one club with all three associations, and just on the, so we would have followed the guidelines, you know, based on that. Just two things, I suppose, on the bank accounts. I'm sure in the Lgfa constitution, or it says that the Lgfa must have an account registered with the Lgfa county board. So, and also for like day-to-day running of a big club, that the separate accounts, while you have one account controlling it, that there is a need for separate accounts, you know, for day-to-day expenses.
Okay. Ciara, is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Ciara, sorry. The account you register with the county board, so there's no difficulty in registering the main club account as the account with the county board. I'm not sure what's the club again, Ciara?
It's Douglas in Cork.
Douglas, okay, so you're talking about a big club. And
yeah.
Would Douglas, I mean, obviously I don't know what sort of structure they have, but have they a number of accounts for different sections of the club already on the GA side?
Well, that would be all. I'm not 100% sure, but I think anything that it will be merged or is merged into one account. There is one account, we'll say, but it just was something that came up in the talks within the club, that it was that Lgfa needed, and I suppose just on the, looking at the size. You know, it is quite a big club, so it's just that it was felt that, you know, the day-to-day running of a few thousand people in a club, that for day-to-day expenses, people, and also for things like grants that were maybe paid out, they have to be if, you know, historically, I suppose, grants maybe that are in the process of being accepted, that they would have to be paid into the account that's already registered. So it's while maybe it can be done eventually, it's not something that can be done straight away, if you know what I mean, for any club that's moving towards a one club.
I do. I don't think there's a difficulty though in certainly on the latter issue in terms of grants. I don't think there's a difficulty in changing the account on the basis that, you know, it's now a single club. Ciara, you're involved in which end of it at the moment?
The Lgfa.
Lgfa, yeah. So if Lgfa are, you know, making a grant payment, surely, you know, the county Lgfa treasurer can be notified that the account has now changed from account 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to account 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
I don't see that being a hugely difficult thing. I think it's probably one of the issues that has the potential to cause difficulty, the financial one. And I think the cleanest way of doing it is to have a single account. Now, a large club like Douglas may well have a finance committee, and, you know, maybe that's the route to go down, that maybe there should be representation from Lgfa on the finance committee, so that you have a direct say in what happens to funds, or a greater say in what happens to funds. I have to say that, you know, when you go looking for sponsorship, when people make contributions to the club, it makes it an awful lot easier when there's a single account. And I think most people outside of the three organisations probably work on the basis that we're all together anyway. And I think it actually makes it easier to fundraise as a single club rather than as 2 or 3 separate clubs. But But I hope that answers. I would.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying, and of course it absolutely makes sense to for that. But I know that we did look it up at the time, and in the rules, it did state that there had to be, and I think like the Lgfa membership has to be paid through Stripe and things like that. So it's just not as straightforward. Maybe it's something that has to be done over a period of time, not necessarily as a straight away, you know, when clubs would join together.
Yeah, look, as I said, each club has to work out their own situation. But notwithstanding that, Kira, I would strongly urge against having, you know, separate financial structures. I think it seems to me, and you know, other people may have different experiences, that finance and accessibility of facilities are probably the two areas that have the potential to, you know, cause greatest difficulties. And I think if you can nail the financial one early on, it's probably a good move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's fine. I suppose I like that. I'm just coming from a large membership.
Yeah.
That is, yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Somebody else a hand up there, or am I?
Yeah, like if I could ask you like about the handball and also like rounders, like okay, Kevin's like in Dublin, and we support hurling, like Camogie, and for 18 months now, like a rounders, and in the next like 6 months, handball like will be like starting up. So like how do we merge everything in there? It's a handball like and rounders, like will it fit in at the one club model?
Well, handball and rounders are already part of the GAA. So
yes, that's right. Yeah,
they don't actually have to go through that structure at all. And it's great to see a club that's promoting all of the codes, because we tend to sometimes forget about handball and rounders.
that's right.
So you're certainly to be commended highly for that. But the handball and rounder situation is far less complex, because they don't have. I know there's a handball council and all the rest of it, but they're all part now of the GAA. They're fully integrated, and who knows, maybe at some stage our sister organisations will also. But it's an entirely different situation for both of those codes. You know. Right the way up to national level, they're fully integrated, and they use the official guide completely.
Yeah, so like it's no problem really, right?
No, there shouldn't be any difficulty in promoting handball and rounders. You know, and you may have separate subcommittees looking after them, but in terms of rules and structure, it's the full GAA rules.
Yeah, excellent, Lehman. Thanks for that.
You're welcome. Somebody else there?
It is the Secretary of Ballyduff Upper there wants to come in.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. I was just wondering, I suppose it was mentioned there about registering, say, all your members ideally with the Lgfa and Camogie, or separately from like the Camogie side, registering with the GAA and the Lgfa. I suppose there's obviously a cost involved with that. Naturally enough, is the Lgfa membership possibly, is that a bit higher?
It is.
I'm coming from the GAA side myself now.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Shane.
Shane, I may not have been as clear as I should have been there. What we were recommending, Shane, is that everybody would be registered as a member of the GAA. Okay. In terms of the Ladies Football Association and the Camogie Association, those who are involved in ladies football and those who are involved in Camogie will be registered with those associations. So it's not that everybody in the club would be registered with the Lgfa and the Camogie Association, but the recommendation is that everybody in the club would be registered with the GAA, so that, as I said, they can attend at the AGM and be full participating members in the club, because it's the GAA constitution that's the basic document of the club. However, what's recommended is that the the
club
GAA
executive,
chairperson, secretary, and treasurer would be registered as members of the two sister associations as well.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That clears it up perfect.
I may not have been clear on that. I apologise for that, Shane.
No, that's fine. Thanks a million, Liam.
I think we have one more then from the Secretary of Senate, Town and Mead.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, no, I think to follow up to Kira's point, I think on the Lgfa bank account, I think they used to have a bank account because they had to pay the membership through PayPal previously. But I think now with the new foreign system, that could all be paid into one bank account, into your like club bank account, because that's what we do in Centrestown. So I know there was up to last year you had to have separate banks. Memory, the ladies had to have a separate bank account for membership, but that mightn't be required now with foreign. So it's just something for, I think it's Kira on the call from Douglas, maybe something they can look up. But I think they might need a bank anymore now with foreign being the system and going through Stripe, because from Stripe you can just direct it into whatever bank account you want on the system. Just for your information.
That's great, and that's very practical. And for those of you who don't know, Centrestown operate a very, very successful one club model and have been hugely successful at both ladies Gaelic football and men's Gaelic football. I think holding both league titles at the same time on more than one occasion.
I think that's everybody there. So thanks a million. And so Liam, thanks a million for that. And
I'll remain on the call, so if something comes up later on.
No worries at all. So I'd now like to pass over, guys, to go beyond the rules, so to the more practical side, the more coaching the game side of things. I'd like to pass over to Liam Clancy from the Camogie Association.
Cheers, Aaron. Thanks so much. And welcome to everyone that is on the call. It's even great to see so much representation across the country. My name is Liam Clancy. I'm coming to you from the Camogie Association. My role currently is around club education support. Over the next couple of minutes, I hope to bring a little bit of clarity, as much clarity as Liam Keane has brought there, to the structure and governance side of things. And I'll be speaking about coaching and games, finance and fundraising, and the code of behaviour. So if we can move on to coaching and games, Aaron, if that's possible. Super. So from the coaching games perspective, I really like the way we've gone about wording this section of the document, as Liam mentioned, produced and released in June 2017. When we speak about policies, we speak about methods of action, I suppose, and what methods of action look like in a one club environment. So for us, essentially, every athlete and every player, regardless of male or female, within the club grounds, if they're not seeing and experiencing similar across the entire community within the club, action needs to be taken by the one club to address this. And in a coaching and games context, that can come from what they're seeing in terms of time upon facilities, the coaching of their codes, and so on and so forth. Within our second point there, around the schools, and obviously GAA clubs put a huge amount of effort into ensuring that their games are visible within our schools across the country. This visibility needs to be equal across the codes also, and notwithstanding that, the efforts and the sharing of responsibility across the codes operating within that one club, be it two codes all the way up to the four codes, that responsibility needs to be shared to ensure that we've got a sustainable one club model. A practical example of that is, in many clubs we'll have a connection with one of the primary schools, be it a staff member or a family member operating within, and leaving all the responsibility with that individual is often going to lead to something that's not sustainable and is going to break down as we move across time. Our third point there focuses on our club coaches and our coaching survey that the Gaelic Games family produced not so long ago, in the last 10 days or 2 weeks, just shows how intrinsic our coach and community across the country is to the development of our games. I suppose when we talk about sharing our coaches, we talk about a collaborative effort across our coaching community. And I suppose a nice practical example, and I have it scribbled down here for myself to ensure to bring up an example of this to bring it home for ourselves, was a club that I spoke with recently around this and what it looks like on the ground. And such a simple idea, but a WhatsApp group labeled Coaching SOS was put in place in a club that I spoke with, and you know, within that one club, that mechanism was used for coaches, irregardless of the level, irregardless of the age group. The code was to stick in a message looking for a little bit of help of an evening where maybe a coach was stuck with something professionally or personally. And what it resulted in was that collaboration from the get-go within this club that was moving from a club operating amongst separate entities to a one club model. Just a really nice example, and it really brings it home for all of us who possibly see something similar in our own clubs. Point 4, before we move on, looks at facilities, which I mentioned previously, and it really brings us back to point 1 there around similar experiences. So what we would urge is any one club or a club that is looking at a one club model as something that may fit into their own context, you know, really has to look at the quantity and the quality of pitch time or facility usage time across all codes and age groups. If the quantity and the quality isn't there, it really is worth the effort and the time to sit down and have a look at that and see how the club can move closer towards that equality over time. Aaron, I think we're moving on to finance and fundraising. Lovely, thanks so much. So I know Liam has touched on a couple of the points here, actually, what we'll go over again. Often a sticking point within the one club model integration, and understandably so. Anything financial fundraising wise isn't at the flick of a switch, as we've heard from a couple of clubs there already this evening. But often the financial and the fundraising side of things is often brought to us from the perspective of pooling of resources or what's already there. But you know, as Liam touched on earlier on, it's also the pooling of expertise and efforts, and essentially what you're bringing to a fundraiser or a financial year plan is something that's much stronger when it comes together, and there is no separation existing there. Points 1 to 6 here across them, and these are taken directly from the document itself, the June 17 document, which I'm sure will be shared around as part of this follow-up. These are rooted in, I suppose, best financial practice, and these points take time. You know, issuing control of the bank account or the bank accounts to the executive, all club funds go into one account, the proceeds from club fundraisers moving in a fair allocation, I suppose, between the various codes. These things take time, and those who put together that document realize that this takes time. And as I said, it's not a flick of a switch. It's not as easy as moving from what's been traditionally done and into a new year where everything's aligned. We realize that, and we see that all the time with various clubs that come looking for assistance and looking for a bit of conversation around their own unique club context. We're moving towards code of behavior here, Aaron, I think. So again, this code of behavior should sit in every GA club across the country. It is a robust 92-page document, but within that 92 pages, it is clearly laid out, and it is really user friendly, and it is flag posted within that document, which within the one club model, should be undertaken and used by all members within the club. It does offer us modern scenarios. It offers us advice, and it offers us resources that we can refer back to, and all codes can refer back to, all members can refer back to, and it can, within that document, that can provide a cornerstone of our clubs going forward, and it's a nice way to tie everyone at the community together. I think they're my couple of slides, Aaron. If there's a couple of questions off the back of those practical areas, coaching and games, finance, fundraising, the code of behaviour, feel free to stick up a hand or use the chat box.
I think we look okay for there, Arlene. Thanks a million. If there's any in, if we're managing to chat, we'll give you a shout. Everything will be fine. So, folks, I'm just going to plough on now with the last little piece of the presentation. And it started. So basically, a start-off plan, and kind of starting then as a one club. So we've 4 or 5 key areas when we're looking at it when we're trying to get started. And here's my laptop not playing ball again. Now, so step 1, so the organising part. So step 1 is ensure buy-in from, if you have 3 executives, and I know some clubs might have 3 executives, I'll make sure there's buy-in then for the 3 executives when we're going, and that's the key area. So when you have buy-in from people at the top of the club, obviously it's governed by the one club executive, but I know some clubs might even have subcommittees or something like that for the Camogie or the ladies football. So from the one executive, make sure there's buy-in, and that'll get everything starting up. Step 2, so we'll be setting up a small subcommittee representing the 3 organisations to drive on with the process. So that's self-explanatory. A focus group or a working group whose key responsibility is get the ball rolling and coming here. So look and follow the next steps of what we have to do when they're doing it as well. And then communicate with the members. Again, very, very important that when we're talking about it at an executive level, it is mentioned to the mentors, to the players, to the coaches, so everybody knows what's happening. Because there is going to be a change in the club, and otherwise this change, it might maybe feel a little bit forced upon the members when it does happen. So just keep them in the loop all the time, and I think then we're onto a winner from the start. The research. Talk to clubs. So we've mentioned a few clubs today. I'll mention a few later on as well that have gone through this process. If you know a neighbouring club that's something that's gone through, just have a chat with them. Contact the secretary. The secretary's email address is very, very simple. It's secretary.club.county@gaaa.ie. So we have all the secretaries in the country, all the chairperson's email addresses in the country, and all the PRO's email addresses in the country with a simple model. So they're very, very reachable from all the clubs, and I'm sure they'd be happy to help if it's a neighbouring club with what's going on as well. Attend the webinars, seminars, all available in person or online. And then seek advice from the county board. They're always there to help. So the new planning and training officers in the county board, they're well equipped and well prepped for things like this. So don't be afraid to give them a shout, and they'll 100% be around to help out the club as well. Step 3 then, it's the gap analysis, and I'd actually like to thank, I think Ailish Kavanagh could be on this call from St. Martin's, and she gave an awful lot of help with these slides coming in here. So identify key areas which need more unity. We spoke a little bit about them earlier on. So the desired outcomes that need to be taken, and questions then, some of the questions could be below, and I'll answer some of these questions now in a few seconds time. So the finances, again, was talked about earlier on. The facilities, how can we ensure fair and equitable sharing of the pitches, dressing rooms, indoor facilities, etc. The fixtures can be a killer for some clubs on the pitches that they're going on. So what are the main demands then on the pitches? So these all be in the gap analysis of that subcommittee that we spoke about earlier on. The governance, which Liam mentioned earlier on as well, the membership and insurance, and then the coaching, which we talk. So they're key focus areas that we might have to look on when we're deciding what we're going to do in the one club. Feedback is always very important for any project that any club takes on, and nothing's going to be perfect at the first stop. So the subcommittee constantly reviewing the progress to see what's happening. Are the coaches happy? Are the players happy with what's happening? The general membership, the public, and again, just from my club, which I'll mention now in a few seconds, has there been an increase in the female membership? I know from our club that has been, and it's been great. I'll talk about it now in 2 seconds time. But when I was back playing under 10s, under 11s, I think there was a 90% to 10% juvenile membership of males to females. It's now actually 55% males, 45% females from the small steps, the small wins that we've picked up in the last few years. So it's huge, huge progress and an increase in female membership. And for our club anyway, has been great feedback and a key to seeing how successful that this can be. And with the subcommittee, which we mentioned earlier on, constantly reviewing the progress and the process to keep ticking over and keep making sure that the coaches, the players and the membership, that they're being kept happy in there as well. So then adapt and execute, the key to every plan. So all the executive, the subcommittees, they all have representation, which we mentioned earlier on as well. And the Lgfa and the Camogie, the members of the GAA club again spoke about the overall run of the club is under the club executive. Again, that's in rule, and so that has to be done. But it's important that then on that club executive that there is representation from the Camogie and the Lgfa as well. Provide clear role descriptions for each executive and subcommittee member. That's not just for one club, that's for every club. And communication, again, which I mentioned earlier on, for any club, not just for one club, but it is key. And clear people who you know who to go to, who is the go-to person for the hurling, for the Camogie, for the Lgfa, and what they do and how they can help you and how they can help the memberships in there as well. And again, the last point there would be keep the subcommittees and members clearly informed, and so they're always in the loop and know what's happening as well. There's just a little bit of a gap analysis, and that'll all be circulated then through after the meeting as well. So my club, I'm a Dub. I'm Roundtowers Clondalkin is my club, and again we're just nearly getting started on this. We've not done the whole not fully a one club yet, but we are getting started. And I've just listed it below just a few what I call quick wins for the club and how this can take part very, very simply, very easily and very successfully, and that we've seen through our club as well. So again, the one executive committee, Towers Oak trained together. Towers Oak will be our nursery, so our 4 to 7 years of age. So we've boys and girls all trained together up until the age of 7. We've about 250 children up in our pitches every single Saturday morning. So it's absolutely great to see. And like I was saying, when I was starting off, it was 90% males, 10% females. It's now gone up to that age group to about 55% males, 45% females. So it's huge progress in that we've made. Each age group fundraises together. So we mentioned fundraising earlier on. Liam Clancy touched on it during his presentation. So I'll pick Fela, for example. So when traditionally Fela clubs or Fela teams would normally get maybe a new tracksuit or a new kit bag or something like that, but they'd have to do a bit of fundraising. So instead of the boys getting a new full half zip, a training bag, and the girls getting a t-shirt and maybe a pair of socks, every single team trains together or fundraises together, so they get the exact same. So there's no changing or no discrimination or anything like that. And so the under 16s, if they're having a fundraiser, then they could be having maybe a disco or a bingo night or something like that. All proceeds will go to the boys hurling, the football, the Camogie, and the ladies football association. So there's all the 4 codes are involved together in all the fundraisers. The one club tracksuit. A few years ago, I see around other clubs as well. There could be 3 or 4 types of tracksuits going around the club. And again, this isn't for one club. This is just for one club, one identity, as they say. We've done a partnership with O'Neill's, and we say, right, this is our club tracksuit for 2 years. If anybody's coming to get the tracksuit from the teams, this is what we're getting. It could be the boys' teams, it could be the men's team, or the girls' teams, it could be the senior football team, it could be the under 8s. This is the tracksuit that they're getting. So the one club, the one identity that they're looking at. The next one is very, very important and has proved a great success in our club, and it's for pitch allocations. And the most senior team in each code gets the preference. Now, I know we're lucky enough as a club that we have 2 or 3 teams at each level. So we've 3 senior football teams, we've 2 Camogie teams, 2 ladies football teams. But we say the most senior team. So if we say there's the second men's team have a match the same day as the first Camogie team have a match, well, the first Camogie team will get preference. And that's how we do it in there. And again, to go to other pitches, so again, it has worked successfully. Of course, teams are going to be disappointed and all that. That's just facilities. That's the way it goes. But we think anyway that's one of the most fairest ways that we can allocate the pitches. The most senior team in each code will get if there's a match on, we'll get precedence of the pitch. And the last point, the players' night. So all codes are represented. I've been to clubs before. Again, not our club, but they say there's a players' night there for the hurlers. There's a players' night there for the senior footballers, and that's it. For our players' nights, all four and they're represented. Drinks at the bar, something like that, whatever. Again, I've been to other clubs, yet the senior footballers are getting a drink when the Camogie teams have to put their hand in the pockets and fork out over the bar. That's the way we do it. We say, no, players' night, all codes represented, and they're all treated the same in there as well. So, folks, I'll just stop sharing now for 2 seconds. And again, that was, I know we absolutely flew through that, but that was our little kind of what we used to call quick wins in the club, and that's how we got through the start of the one club process anyway. So I'm happy to take any questions that you might have on that one.
Hi, Aaron.
How's it going?
Gareth from Ferns and Danes in Wexford, Camogie chairperson. We're probably similar to yourself when you were initially, I suppose, setting out on this road. You were a high level of male-dominated membership. I suppose we were about 80-20 in terms of that as well. So the Camogie representation would be quite small. What were the key factors that helped you swing that membership, or what were the key things that you would have implemented to help swing that membership?
So then it was as juveniles, it was straight to the schools, absolutely straight to the schools. We have a games promotions officer in our club, and we said to him, the executive, we sat down and said, right, we'll go into the schools, and now we were quite lucky at the time that the Dublin ladies footballers were actually very, very successful. And I think when we started off, I think they've done maybe 2 or 3 All-Irelands, 2 in a row. And so that was a little bit of kind of luck at the time, but it was straight into the schools and actually setting up teams in the schools as well, rather than just going in and doing a training session, get them playing matches in between themselves. And then we would have had people from the executive going out to the matches. They would have been up to the parents. There's a leaflet for you. The under 10 ladies football team is training on a Tuesday night, and we'd love to see our daughter up, stuff like that. So constant engagement. And media is very important as well. We thought we'd straight onto social media, and then all the parents are sharing it, going around as well. So constantly progressing the training sessions for the girls. The boys, not that it sold itself, but we never really struggled for boys' numbers, which we were lucky enough. But for the girls, we would have. And again, which I mentioned at the start then, everybody training together on the Saturday morning was a huge, huge help. Rather than having 20 girls coming up and there could be 70 lads at different training, different times. We all trained them in together, and like I said, now it's 55-45. So 4 years to 7 years of age, we trained them all together, and then everybody loves it. They have great crack coming up as well.
Yeah, we have a similar model in terms of the training Wednesday nights and Saturday morning, and again, they're all mixed with underage, both from our cadets right up to our under 8s and under 9s. So that has worked well, and we have had good numbers. I suppose it's to continue on that throughout the grades as they go up along.
Yeah, no, very good. I'd say hit the schools are the main thing.
Yeah.
And if you can, if there's a teacher involved in one of the schools that plays a bit of football or camogie or something like that, set up a team. So why not? And then we can get a coach out to the club. That's what we've done. We got the games promotions officer out to the school, and he did a training session with them afterwards on just a Wednesday afternoon after school or something like that. And then we're setting up a few local matches in the village as well between all the schools.
Yeah, we started in the 365 and the goal games as well in the school there as well. So I suppose we're on the right road, and it's just if there's any other pointers, I suppose.
Give it time, and you should see results. Give it time.
Very good. Thanks, Aaron.
I see Miriam there with a hand up.
Sorry, yes. I'm just from the small club in South Mayo, the Neil. And we've been, I suppose, maybe under the one club now, I'd say, for approximately 15 years. We got in there, but it was hard work. But we got there. I think the benefit was they could see that the Lgfa, we could raise a lot of money faster and sell tickets a lot faster than what the men could. So it took time, but it's worth it, and it's working very well now.
Yeah, no, so give it time, because it is hard work. Yeah. It's not going to be a walk in the park. And it is
it's been going very well now for the last few years. Brilliant. Going very well.
Anybody else there, folks? We have a few minutes. We have about 5 or 10 minutes. We were going to put it into breakout rooms, just for a few discussions. But you see, there's not too many on the call. There's about 40 on the call. And so we were going to ask you during the breakout rooms, would be any ideas that you would have had. So what worked well in your club? If anybody, we could just do it here and for the whole group. If anybody has any ideas, just like I threw out there, the quick wins, what worked well in your club, what maybe didn't work well in your club, what have you tried? And so if there's any kind of things coming in, you might want to share with the group. I see Donald McInerney there with his hand up.
Yeah, how are you doing? I'm from Selbridge in Kildare, and we've been very, very successfully doing one club for years. But one of the things that unfortunately I'm in the actual Camogie side of it, and unfortunately, you know, hurling and football, men's hurling and football just gets the profile. That's just the way it is, really. You know, it does get the profile. And so one of the things that we had to really push on was that at the start of the year, each code does a budget, and those budgets are actually compared and assessed against each other, because, you know, we'd have situations where the men's football would be getting, you know, 20 and 30,000 budget a year, and then Camogie might be down at 6,000, and then the Lgfa might be at 4,000. And so you have to make sure that spending on codes and clubs, you know, codes is actually equally assessed across the club, and that was something that we had to really work on.
And just how did you for just say for sponsorships and all money coming in with that kind of stuff with the spending? Would it be the same? Would it be more sponsorship? People looking for sponsorship for the men's side of the club, or would there be people pushing them for the females as well to get the sponsors?
Well, what we did was we kind of had two different kind of classes of sponsor. Anything that was a club sponsorship event would be equal across all codes, but that wouldn't stop, you know, the individual groups from having their own small sponsorship drives, you know, individually. But anything that was a club sponsored, a club run event would be equal spend across all groups then.
Brilliant. I'll just see a question there in the chat. If Liam Kim might want to jump in, just for the Lgfa question, if he's still on the call.
Yeah, I'm here. Okay, Chairperson Kiltubrit has asked, would Lgfa members have access to the GAA Players Injury Fund after adopting one club model? My understanding is that if you're playing ladies Gaelic football, you access the Lgfa fund. If you're playing Camogie, you access the Camogie fund, regardless of whether it's a one club model or otherwise. It's my understanding of it. The next question is from MM, I don't know who that is. Hi, can you just describe a little around club membership not being varied by reference to code played? Sorry, Margaret, I can see the name there. Okay, I'm not entirely sure what that question is getting at. If Margaret maybe could just elaborate a little bit on that. Are you there, Margaret?
Okay. I don't know if you can hear me, but I
Yes,
hope I can explain myself. So I'm just, we're considering it. I'm here in a club in Tipperary, right? So I just know currently, say for example, an adult Camogie player pays 60 euros for membership.
Yeah.
So at the moment, right, if I'm an adult Camogie player, I pay my 60 euros. And if I want to join the GAA, I think it's 30, right? You know, just as a regular member. But I'm not exactly sure what the club membership is, but I think it's higher if you're a player for the GAA. So I think somebody mentioned it there in the gap analysis, that it was something that they did. Was it to analyze basically what each membership rate was and to try and achieve, you know,
yes,
the same across the board, but I'm not sure how they can do it. And the club that I'm involved in, they have a gym which is currently just open to the hurlers, right? And you know, it's just the insurance around that and what covers it. So I suppose that's what my question is. It's probably very vague.
No, it's a very real issue, Margaret. I'm not sure. Maybe Aaron has a view on this, but certainly, first of all, I think what's recommended, and I would certainly support it. It's contained, I think, in the guidelines, is that where possible, you achieve a situation where the membership is the same, regardless of whether you're playing men's football, hurling, ladies football, or Camogie. So in your situation, I think it's Camogie and hurling. So rather than having differing rates of membership for male and female members, that you would have a common membership fee. I think that's what works best. Certainly in the club I'm with, that's what we do, and it means that it means in some ways on that front, in that context, you could argue that the men's side is subsidising the women's side, but it more than repays itself in other ways. I don't think it's a good model if you have a different membership subscription for men and women within the club. I think the ideal way to go is to have a single one. In fact, I nearly go so far as to say that's really the only way to go. In terms of gym membership and the like, I don't think none of those problems are insurmountable. You know, that insurance issue that can be resolved if they're all members of the GAA. I think that can overcome that. And again, I think if you're going for the one club model, I mean, I like the attitude that Aaron described in his club, where you just go for it and everybody's in together, and you know, it doesn't matter which code you play, you have access to the facilities. And you know, if you're going for a one club, it really has to mean that. I don't think you can say we're going for the one club model, but we're going to have separate arrangements for men and women. I don't think that works. You know, I think if that's what you're at, you're not really committing to it. And I think if a club is going to commit to a one club model, you just go for it and you work out those kinds of issues. And there is a little bit of pain, of course there is. I mean, I'd echo, I don't know who said it was, I think Liam said it, that you'll often find with, or no, sorry, it was one of the questioners, you'll often find that when it comes to fundraising, having the women in the club involved makes it much easier to fundraise. And, you know, isn't having to subsidize the membership side of things a small price to pay? When you look at it in the round, you actually make far more. And that's from a purely financial point of view, you know, leaving aside all the other issues, which are probably far more important. But from a purely financial point of view, my experience would be that you actually end up in a more profitable situation than running separate clubs.
Okay, thank you.
Gaelish club, Camogie clubs must organise their own insurance, not through the organisation. Okay, I wasn't aware of that. Okay. So I take it that would still be the situation then, until maybe some of the people involved in the insurance side of things would probably be more educated on this side of things, but I don't think we have a unified insurance or player injury fund. The insurance is different. Insurance, you know, public liability and the like would be organised by the club. So that's through the GAA insurance scheme. But in terms of the player injury fund, that applies to GAA activities. So if you're playing games under the auspices of the GAA, so that's men's Gaelic football and hurling, that's what's covered there. That's certainly my understanding of it.
If Gavin O'Donovan there from Wexford, I think he has his hand up, wants to come in.
Yeah, Liam, just a question in I suppose in my own club, both Camogie and hurling or Camogie and GA, they cooperate very well together, and we would have stuff in place around similar to Aaron said, around dealing with pitches and how that's prioritised, which is good. But we'd still be separate clubs and separate executives. From a rules perspective, what way do you recommend dealing with putting that first executive in place for a one club, and how you get equal representation from all sides of the club on it?
Okay, well, happy to take that one, Gavin. I think a lot of it comes down to discussion between, if you have two separate clubs at the moment, well, clearly there needs to be discussion between the executive committees of both clubs to work out how best it would work in the context of your club, because what works in my club or Aaron's club might not work in yours. I think we can all learn from what works in other clubs, and there are certain basic structures which seem to work in in more or less every club, and they're the ones that are contained in the guidelines. Beyond that, there's plenty of room for local initiative and local variance. So how do you actually get to that point? I would have thought that the two clubs make a decision that they're going to operate as a one club model from now on. Maybe that should be done at an annual general meeting. I think that's probably the best way to do it. In terms of, how do you work out what the structure of the executive committee of the single club will be? Well, that comes down to discussion. The suggestion is, that all the members of the Camogie club, in your case, would now become members of the GAA as well, which gives them a right to vote at AGM and elect officers and committee. In addition, I think in most situations, there would be perhaps a seat on the executive for perhaps the chair or the secretary or somebody of the Camogie side of things. So the Camogie committee would be a subcommittee of the executive, with perhaps the chairperson of the Camogie subcommittee sitting on the executive committee of the GA club. That's just a model that I think works in a lot of clubs, but it comes down to discussion.
Yeah, fair enough. Thanks, Tim.
If Donna is there again with his hand up.
Yeah, two things. One is I would actually reinforce what Liam said there. Definitely, it absolutely works to have, representation from the Camogie and the Lgfa committee, that you have somebody on the executive. That is key, because you need a voice in there. But two areas that we have actually struggled with, even though we have been one club for, years and years and years. One is the fact that we have historically had three different registration processes, and even within Ferran now we still have three different instances of Ferran, and I'm working on merging them into a one club, but that's a huge workload for one registrar. So we're actually discussing at the moment whether we actually keep three different registrars, even though we have the data united into one instance of Ferran. And the other place where the workload is actually a problem is in the children's officer. Whether you have a single children's officer within a club that covers all codes, or whether you have a Camogie children's officer and an Lgfa children's officer and then a GAA children's officer, because the workload there can be huge, for covering all of those three codes. So I'd like to know your thoughts on that in particular.
I'll just come in there if that's all right. Just on that, I'd see absolutely no issue with that, as it's just because the only reason it's done is because of the workload. And so it's not because I'm looking after the boys, I'm looking after the girls. It's literally just because it's an awful lot of work to get done. Now, what I would recommend, just the one registrar. Do again on Fernan, it's nearly all self-explanatory, but it do have the one master file, if you get me. So keep everything just in one place. But absolutely no issues with that at all, because it's quite a big workload, and that's the only reason why it's done. So it's not done for the separation of the boys versus girls, just for say, but it's just because it's an awful lot of work. If Liam wants to go in there, if he has
I'd echo that. I don't see an issue with it. I think there should be one children's officer in the club, but there's nothing wrong with that children's officer having, a committee of 2 or 3 to help him or her. I mean, I think that is really dependent on the nature of the club, the size of the club, all of that. So, in a small club, one children's officer might have very little to do. In a large club, the children's officer might be very, very busy. And it would, I'd echo what Aaron says. If the reason you have assistance is because of the workload, well, that makes perfect sense. Set it up as a little subcommittee, a children's officer subcommittee, and make the children's officer, the club children's officer, chair of that subcommittee, and he or she then can allocate the work. So if there's one person looking after ladies football and Camogie, that's fine,
Thanks.
There's some other questions there in the chat, Aaron.
Yes, so can the club register the ladies on Ferran for Lgfa, and do they need to be registered for the GAA first? you want to go into that one, Leo? I think they can register, of course, register for the GAA or for the LGFA. Do you have an issue with that one there, Liam?
No, I think Furren is look, I know Furren is a work in progress. I mean, let's be frank about it. You know, there were teething issues with it. Whenever you're introducing a new system like that, there are going to be teething issues. But I think the aim is that there would be one online platform for registration for ladies Gaelic football, Camogie and GAA. I mean, I think that's what we're trying to get to. I'm not the club registrar, so I don't know the ins and outs of it. But I know that is certainly the aim, that there would be a single platform for registering it. So I don't see that. Certainly in principle, there's no need for that. That that have to be registered for the GAA first. No, I don't think that's an issue. The next one there is
sorry, Liam, on that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Liam, this is the technical decision. So when people, you can set up your membership options in Furren. People can pick either GAA or LGFA when they're registering. They're basically self-service, so you can register yourself. So you can set it up to that someone can pick the LGFA or GAA, like member. Let's say registering themselves or paying. The only issue, I think, I know it's slightly different. The issue with the hurling Camogie, in the ladies LGFA, they charge a lot more money. So to your membership point, is generally we set the same membership, let's say, out of ladies players, because generally the ladies actually cost more of their money will actually end up going to the county board than GAA generally only charge the €2 membership fee, and everything else goes to the club, if you know what I mean. So
yes,
as you said, it's better if people are registering as LGFA, then you can just, the registrar or someone can go in and actually just register them all as, let's say, GAA members, if you know what I mean, afterwards. If you know, to add them to the GAA, let's say, membership of the club, it might be an easier way of doing it. I know it's probably different for Camogie and for the Camogie, it might be a different scenario for them.
No, I think it's broadly similar, Declan. I think that's probably the way to do it.
Yeah, let them join whatever, if Camogie is the main focus or ladies football, and then afterwards someone can just the registrar then can register them all as GAA members then afterwards. Generally, I think that'd be the easiest way of doing it. And just I think it's Donna's point there. Yeah, like we'd have two registrars, one for the ladies and one for the men, because of the fact that, as I said, the ladies have to pay the fees to the county board, and that's part of the process. So they can keep an eye on who's on, let's say, the ladies' membership, to make sure that whoever's playing or etc. should be has paid their membership on the ladies' side. So we can have multiple people in Furren as administrators, so that's up to the club's choice in the one club model.
Thanks. I mean, that just ties in then with Nicky's question there at the end. He said that the registrations for the GAA and the LGFA and they're scheduled for different times, and they're different as well. So it's down to the essentially, as of yet, I don't believe that they're going to be aligned. I'm not sure yet. Liam might have an update on that one.
No, look, there are, I mean, as you probably know, there are ongoing discussions between the three associations. The Memorandum of Understanding has been in place for a number of years. It's currently being reviewed, and there may be further changes down the line depending on how those discussions go. But that's, I think Nicky's suggestion there is a particularly practical one, that if all the membership dates were aligned, it would make life a lot easier. But look, there are reasons presumably why each organisation may have different dates, and maybe historical reasons for that. And there are lots of those kinds of practical issues that have to be overcome. I'd certainly hope that they will be overcome sooner rather than later. But the closer alignment of the three associations is a work in progress, and it's being done gradually. And that decision was made by all three organisations, that rather than going for the big bang, that a gradual alignment like this might be the way to go. That may be the right or wrong decision, but that's the decision that has been taken. But I think Nicky's suggestion is a good one.
And I think there's one last question in the chat, just about the team management.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I missed that.
So each coach will look after the day-to-day run of the coach. Should each coach get senior managers ratified, especially if there's a cost involved?
I think so. Yes, I mean, if you, I don't know your experience, Aaron, but certainly mine would be all the team managers in Blackhall Gaels are ratified by the club executive committee, and it doesn't make any difference whether it's the men's senior football team or the ladies camogie team or whatever. They're all ratified at the executive, and you just, I'm sure you find the same, Aaron, but if you have a consistent approach for all sections of the club, it breaks down any of those barriers that might have been there. I don't know what
Consistency is the key. So if you're doing it for the senior men's, you're doing it for the senior ladies. That's our way of doing it anyway. So there's no differences at all. And so if you're ratifying the manager and the senior men's, ratify them for the senior ladies. That's what we look at anyway. So folks, we're a little bit over time, but I think that was very, very productive. So I'd like to thank Liam Keane and Liam Lynch on a very, very successful presentation. Yes, I'll see the text. Oh, that was earlier on. Apologies. It was recorded and it will be sent out, so apologies. And so, thanks a million, guys. I really hope you enjoyed that. I got a thing or two out of it. The slides and the recording will be published, and we'll get that out in the upcoming days as well. So, guys, go a million mahagav, slán, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Slán.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Okay. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Stop recording. Thanks a million for that, Liam.
Oh, okay, I think it went fine. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it did very